Okay, so this is Tehilim 23, part 2. We're going to review everything. I do want to mention that I know some of you had ideas or approaches or were working on stuff from last time. I'm in conflict because I would really like to do the Radak, and I feel like we have a reasonable shot of reading the Radak and understanding him in one night. So if you have an urgent idea, then we could take it up, but that will mean breaking up the Radak. So if I had a preference, I would vote to go through the doc and get an idea on that. And we could always do this in other approaches in part 3. That's my vote. Okay. So just say that. Okay. So let's review. Again, thankfully, this is a very short chapter, so we won't take us that long to review. Mizmor LeDavid, Psalm of David. Hashem ro'i lo achsar. Oh, and on the sheets that you guys have, that's just the printed editions. I'm using mine up here, so I didn't put that on. I didn't add that to the thing. So Hashem ro'i lo achsar. Hashem is my shepherd, I will not lack. Bin os desha yarbiteni, al me menuchas yanahaleni. In grassy meadows, he causes me to, supposed to say to lie down. Alongside tranquil waters, he leads me. Nafshi yishovev, he restores my soul. Yanchini b'magle tzedek l'ma'an shemo. He guides me on paths of righteousness for the sake of his name. Gam ki elech b'gei talmaves, even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, or as Alter said, in the veil of death's shadow. I still love that phrase. Lo irara, I will not fear harm. Harm, evil, badness. Okay. Ki ata imati, for you are with me. Shivtecha umishantecha hima yinachmuni. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me, or they will comfort me. Taruch lefanai shulchan negetzorai. You set before me a table opposite my tormentors. Dishanta v'shemen roshi kosi revaya. You anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. Ach tov v'chesed yerdefuni kol yimei chayai. So we're going to take this as a bakasha, as a request. May only goodness and kindness chase me all the days of my life. V'shavti b'veis Hashem l'orach yamim, and I shall dwell. We didn't read this yet, but I'm just going to go ahead and front load it. Another translation is repose, like I'll rest. And then the other one is I will return. Okay, which the critique of that is it's weird that it says I will return in the house of Hashem, because you'd have to say it means I return to the house of Hashem. And then the bet is weird. Okay, but that is a translation that's used. L'orach yamim, for long days. Okay, so our pivot point possibilities we had 2 possibilities for why we would divide it into 4. Oops, sorry, I forgot to make this like that. Okay, 1 through 4 and 1 through and 5 and 6. So one possibility is the first 4 psukim are the mashal, the metaphor, and then 5 and 6 is the nimshal, or if you want to put it in particulars, first 4, David is a sheep, 5 and 6, he's a human. Okay. Another distinction between the first 4 and the last one is that in the first 4, this is kind of like a literary one. He is the one who is moving or being led. And in the 5th and the 6th one, he is stationary and things are moving to him. So he's sitting at the table, he's being served, his cup is being poured, goodness and kindness, his enemies are opposite him, kindness and goodness are following him, and he's sitting in the house of Hashem. Okay. Another possibility is in 1 through 3, he is talking about what Hashem does for him in third person. And then in 4 through 6, he is speaking to Hashem. Okay. And then the last one, which I think this is you, Isaiah, is that in 1 through 5, David is describing all the good that Hashem has done for him, but in 6, he's requesting that the goodness and kindness continue. And in order to take that approach, you'd have to say that that you'd have to kind of like gloss over some of the tenses, or not gloss over, but like mush them into one. And then you have to say that the last one is a request.
Right.
Yeah, which is fine. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and not color it. Okay, so let's go through the questions really quickly. So questions are, is this a biographical psalm about a particular episode in David's life, or is it about Israel at some time in his existence, or is it a universal psalm that could apply to anyone at any time? 2, what's the subject of the perek? What's the whole thing about? 3, what's the significance of the whole metaphor of sheep and shepherd? And if this is about David, is he really a sheepy kind of guy? Answer is no, right? It doesn't seem to describe his life, which was turbulent. So he's not sheepy in the sense that he was very proactive. He was a leader. He's not like a follower. And also, if it's describing like the idyllic tranquility. His life was turbulent, not tranquil. So it just doesn't quite match. 4, what is the implication of the spiritual goods mixed in with the physical goods, especially in 3 and 6? So you have the he guides me on the paths of righteousness for my name's sake, or for the sake of his name, which is more about like morality and living, in line with like the values of Torah. And then also goodness and kindness chase me, but then everything else is physical. So what's with the mixture? And then what is the function of the pivot? Classic question. Okay, then we get into our particular questions. On Pasuk Aleph, I will not lack. I will not lack what? Okay, and also what's the Havamina? What would he think that? Would we think he would lack something, or what? And then how does this fit into the shepherd mashal? Pasuk 3, if 1 through 4 is depicting David as a sheep, what is this doing there? He guides him in paths of righteousness for the sake of his name. Does not seem like a sheep thing. Another question for what is this valley of the shadow of death? What is the even doing? What's the chiddush or havamina? Is it that he would fear evil? Is it that he wouldn't be taken there? Like, what's the deal? What is the cause of the fear, and how does Hashem's presence as the shepherd remove the fear? Pasuk 4, in what sense do the staffs provide comfort to the sheep? Comfort from what? So we got the facts on that, but how does it work in here? 5, big question. Who are the tormentors? What are they doing here? What's the deal with setting a table in front of them? Seems like it's a bad place to set up the table. Are you like lording your luxury over them? Also seems out of place with the sheep psukim, especially because there's no enemies depicted by the sheep. And also, unlike many other chapters of Tehilim where David is describing his tormentors' actions and words in detail, here all they're doing is they're opposite him. They're not doing anything to him. 5, what's the significance of the oil in the overflowing cup? 6, why are goodness and kindness depicted as chasing David? They're not kindness and goodness are not chasey goods, right? And also the things that David should be doing, not that they're doing to him. 6, what is the house of Hashem in this context? Usually we'd say it's the Beis Hamikdash, but nothing else here has anything to do seemingly with Beis Hamikdash or with Yerushalayim or even Israel. Also, what's the difference between all the days of my life and for long days? I gave a simple answer, which is all the days of your life. It means like a consistency thing, but long days would mean that you have a long life as opposed to a short life. 16, so what? What's the point of this? What effect is it supposed to have on us? And then just if we can explain the minhagim, then that'd be really nice. Okay, so before I'd say half the people were here on time. So for the people who weren't here on time, I would really like to do the Radak. Because I feel like we have a shot of reading the Radak and understanding him and getting a full idea all now. So if you have a burning idea you want to suggest, then you can go ahead and suggest it. But I would really prefer to not take up like projects of development until next time. Yeah, Isaiah.
So I guess I'll try and quickly say my
Yes,
approach.
I also worked on your approach at length.
Okay,
yeah.
Great. So to me, I think this perek, and I think if it's clear to me now that we just read it,
yeah,
it's like maybe hopefully you worked on it, you came up with something different.
Yeah.
Is that like this is talking about like David is viewing life as like a preparation really for Olam Haba, and like it prepares his soul to be like in the best state to accept it.
Yeah.
So like God really leads him. He's his shepherd. Like he's putting him through that process, and he's not going to lack anything because like God set up that process in the way which is best for David. So he's going to like lead him along. I don't know exactly what the tranquil waters are, but like it's a good place, life. Like he's restored his soul. Like he gives him what he needs in order to succeed. And even like I guess the valley of death, I think, is like the fear of death. The fear of death is nothing to David because he doesn't fear like dying because he knows that God is preparing him for death. And like the punishments, the rod and the staff, to me that was like, oh, those are like, the punishments are meant to improve David or whatever like difficulties he comes across. And the table opposite the tormentors is like David's life, like from the view of the people who are tormenting him, like is turning out so great, and they don't understand why, and like Hashem set it up that way. Like if you follow in his ways, you're gonna have a life that's just like counter everything of like what the Rishayim have, and that's gonna be obvious to them. And I guess the Vikasha in the end is like he wants the good and kindness that like Hashem set up to like if you are following the system, like the goods will chase you, like you'll like keep getting them because like you're so like you're like you're in line with the system, and like Hashem like promotes that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I as I mentioned, I worked on this today on your approach also. So let me show you. I have a slightly different twist on a certain little psukim here. So Hashem is my shepherd, I shall not lack. I totally like your interpretation there. Is that and also in grassy meadows he causes me to lie down, alongside tranquil waters he leads me. So all of that is just referring to the way God set up this world to facilitate, like, you can be involved in knowledge and tzedek and mishpat and chesed, and then get olam haba. We forgot to say the main. I think we forgot to say the main thing. The main. I don't know if this is where you got it from, but this is what we talked about. Beis Hashem. Okay, we read this in the last perek of Tehilim that we did, whenever that was. I think is that the Rambam in Hilchos Tשובה, when he's talking about in chapter 8, when he's talking about olam haba, he says that olam haba is alluded to in like code words in the psukim. Kama shemos karu la derech mashal. Har Hashem, Mount Hashem, Malkum Kacho, Derech HaKodesh, Chatzos Hashem, Oel Hashem, Noam Hashem, Heichal Hashem, Beis Hashem, right? So house of Hashem is, I know he's quoting another pasuk there, but like there's a lot of places where it says Beis Hashem. So house of Hashem is code word for olam haba. Okay, so I think that's like a solid. That's it's a solid like linguistic evidence. Okay, walking. Oh, so he restores my soul. Okay, you could also say Yeshovev. I had an interpretation of this. I don't know what the interpretation is, but I feel like talking about soul and guiding him on paths of righteousness for the sake of his name is a good description of what it's like to pursue a life of olam haba, because you're practicing righteousness. There's a Gemara in Makos about there are 613 mitzvos, right? And then it says David came and reduced them to 11, and then Yeshayahu reduced them to 6, and then Micha reduced them to 3, and then Amos reduced them to 2, and then it switches, right, to another one who reduced it to 2, Yeshayahu again maybe, and then or Chavakuk. No, Chavakuk was the last one. Yeah, Chavakuk was 1, and you remember what the 1 was?
Oh, it's something with Mishpat?
No.
No.
I think that's the second one. Yeah. Yeah. Tzaddik be'emunaso yichyeh. Yeah. Tzaddik in his righteousness will live, right? And righteousness we know from the Rambam and from Mishlei that it means living in line with what your nature is, So I think this whole description of God guiding us on paths of righteousness for the sake of his name, which is for the sake of knowledge of God, both for us and for the world, I think that's a good description of like, what the path of this life is. Okay. Walking in the valley of the shadow of death. So I thought that was just a good description of this world, that you're in a finite world and you're mortal, and so you are in death's shadow in the sense that you will die. And for most people, death is the worst thing because it's the end of life. But for us, for we who value a life beyond the physical world, so we don't fear this evil. And I'm going to elaborate a little bit on in the Radak. Because you are with me, because we live a life with God, and then your staff and your 2 types of staffs comfort me. I think we theorized last time that there's a staff of punishment and there's a staff of support, right? And so whatever you want to say those are, like we saw some people say that staff of punishment is yisurin, is afflictions, that help you to do tshuva. Staff of support might be Torah. I think I saw someone say that. I wanted to say also that it could be like Isaiah was saying in Pasuk 5, that like this is literally set up in front of my enemies. My enemies are watching me and like aren't figuring out what's going on here. But I was thinking that this is the shift into olam haba now. Okay, that I am neged. So the set table is a mashal for the fact that like if you prepare adequately in this world, then you'll have what in olam haba, and it'll be abundant. And it's neged sorarai. It's like the polar opposite of the lifestyle that David's enemies lived, which were not geared towards olam haba and were based on like success in this world and like wickedness and all the opposites of David's values. And then I was learning so actually let me start with the second half. Shavti b'veis Hashem, I will sit in the house of Hashem. So sitting is another code word for olam haba. Tzaddikim sit with their crowns on their heads. Okay, and then l'orach yamim, yom shekulo aruch, right, is the day that is perpetually long. So I think that second half is like really Olam Haba. And then in Olam Haba, what happens is kindness and goodness come to you. You're not active in Olam Haba. We can't do any mitzvahs or gain any learning in Olam Haba. You're just surrounded by the goodness that you reaped in this world. So I think it's like a nice, neat, thing. And you could squabble about the particulars, but oh, I think that's all just for abundance. You could say other stuff like Torah is compared to oil and wine. I mean, I don't know how far you want to go, but like I'm content with just keeping it on the surface level. Yeah, Tamar?
Okay, so just a follow up on this approach, general, which is, I guess, in this idea, like, what is David's purpose in putting it in this like beautiful language?
Right. Okay. So the question here is, what is the purpose of this? Right. Meaning, make it a little bit bigger. What is the purpose of this? Of this whole like depiction, right? And what's the purpose of us saying this? Okay, so I'm going to hold off on that question because the Radak doesn't take this exact approach, but I think it complements this approach. Okay, so let's now switch gears. Okay, unless anyone else has anything to say on this. Okay, so we're going to read the Radak. I'm going to give a public service announcement, which I have not yet given this year. I experienced it today. The printed Radaks are notoriously, or I shouldn't say notoriously. I'm trying to make them notoriously bad. No, I'm trying to spread awareness that the Radaks that are printed in most things except the Torah time are all really deficient manuscripts. Okay, and I'm talking like what I used to do in the first year I was teaching here is I would always compare the word count of the accurate Radaks to the word count of like the Radaks that are printed, and it's like sometimes it'd be lacking dozens of words. Key sentences would be missing, like sentences where the Radak says the theme of the entire perek is blank. Or today I was learning this with Ken, and like he was using a regular one and I was using the Torah Chaim, and he was saying like I don't have what you're reading, and one of them was like the thing that opened up everything for me. Okay, so the only unfortunately, All Torah doesn't have it, and neither does certainly Sfari doesn't have it. If All Torah doesn't have it, Sfari definitely doesn't have it. And MG Keter also I don't think has it, but Bar Ilan, if you have access to Bar Ilan, I think has a pretty good Radak. But the most reliable one is the Torah Chaim. Okay, so what I have here, I think this is the Torah Chaim. I'm pretty sure. Okay, you know what? Let me make this bigger because now we're in public screen territory, not me laptop. Okay, so what was that?
MG Keter does have it.
I actually, I have not checked. What was that? Okay, anyway. Okay, so we're gonna do what we usually do is we're gonna read the Radak and we'll stop to talk about it. But we're gonna try to keep our eye on the big picture because it's easy to get bogged down in the lose the forest for the trees. Okay, so the Radak does something weird here. What was it?
In the grassy meadows.
In the grassy meadows, yeah. The Radak does something weird here, which I've never seen him do. He goes through the whole perek based on Chazal. And he does it in kind of like a not flippant, that's too disrespectful word, kind of like a half-hearted manner. Like he's like, oh, this is about this and this is about this. And then he says, okay, now I'm going to explain the pshat. Okay, so we're going to skip all this. And he ties it to events in David and Melech's life. If you're interested in that, then go ahead and look at it. But now we're going to skip to the pshat. And what I did here is I grayed out, this is what I used to do with the Radak when I taught it, just grayed out the lengthy grammatical proofs and stuff that like is not substantive here, which you can read on your own time. Okay. All right. So he says like this: Hashem roi, himshil atzmo laseh v'hakel. Oh, and by the way, I believe on the screen, I think this is ChatGPT with some of my modifications, but I don't think I went through the whole thing. I just, when I know something off, then I changed it. Okay. Himshil atzmo laseh v'hakel l'roeh. Okay. He likens himself to a sheep and God to a shepherd. Of Amar Hashem roi. Became shu roeh osi lo echsar davar. Okay, so since he is my shepherd, I shall lack nothing. Okay, now I thought in this, I was like, great, Radak. Thank you for illuminating us, right? Like, what is this adding? So what is it adding? Why does he even have to say this? This is like just the glaring like.
Since?
Yes, since. Okay, so can you elaborate?
I mean, I'm not sure exactly where he's going with this, but he's making like a causal connection.
Yes,
to
he's
the
making a
fact-
causal connection. Okay, right.
Yeah.
So just keep that in your mind. Okay, he's saying that since God is his shepherd, he will not lack anything. Okay, which I think implies that if God is not his shepherd, then he may lack something. Okay, now this is different than approaches you could take. Okay, so for example, I don't know if this is consistent with your approach, Isaiah. I think you could make it consistent, but I think you could have made the argument that God is just automatically everyone's shepherd and you don't lack anything in general. But this is saying, no, if God is your shepherd, you won't lack. Okay, or since God is your shepherd, you won't lack. Okay, and that doesn't mean anything yet because we haven't seen what he says. Yeah.
I feel like there are two ways you can take since he is my shepherd. Like,
yes.
Since like he is definitively my shepherd,
right?
Or like since I made him my shepherd.
Yeah, right. I'm kind of putting the emphasis on the my, since he is my shepherd.
Right.
Okay, yeah. All right, so let's go on. Bina Ost, I'm gonna just make this smaller here. Okay, so he basically just says Meadows is a makom. Great. Okay, and he explains what happens to the nun, to the hay. Yeah. Okay, fine. Vinos desh yarbiteni. So Pirush Vinos makom. Okay, it's a place. V'haroe hatov noheg es sono v'roe osan b'makom desha. So a good shepherd will guide his flock and shepherd them in a place that is grassy. V'sham yate oholo. That's where he'll plant his tent. V'yiru. Yiru, I think so, right? He'll shepherd. Boker uvinatoso hayom, and when the day starts to like get later, and in the afternoon, yarbitzan bitsel oholo. He'll cause them to lie down in the shade of his tent. Kamosh kazuv echa tire echa tarbitz b'tzaraim. Okay, fine. When he wants to give them water, he'll guide them alongside tranquil waters. Klomar, mayim shielchu la'at, slow-moving water. V'lo nachal shotef, not a rapid stream, a rapid river. Pen yishatafu osan hamayim b'voan lishos, lest they get swept away when they go to drink. Right? I don't know if that was a common thing, but you can imagine a sheep like going down to like a rushing river and then just getting swept away. Right? Yeah, saying something like that. Okay, so far he's not explaining anything. He's just really fleshing out the mashal. Okay. This morning I heard someone make the common mistake of saying flushing out. That's what we don't want to happen to the sheep. Okay. He's elaborating on this. Okay. Now just methodology wise, which we don't do as much as we should. Okay. This is poetry, right? So what the Radak is doing, really we should be doing on our own also, meaning you should read this and like really like sink into this and like imagine yourself as the sheep being guided by a shepherd and like get all those sheep-like emotions, like that you can imagine. I don't think any of us have been a sheep unless you hold by Gilgal, in which case we won't remember it anyway. But like, so like you have to like put yourself in the imagination realm of a sheep, and then that's when the idea that's where the idea will take root. Yeah, Reza?
This is in response to Tamar's question. So I was wondering if, so it's a beautiful, elegant passage. Does that sort of like, would that ensure that it captures the attention of people over time and like rise to the forefront above other not as elegantly written passages?
Yeah,
like, and
to be perfectly honest, we were talking about this last time. There are chapters in Tehilim that don't read so simply, right? Like they're not like they don't. This one has good like meter, like it somewhat rhymes, and it is easy to relate to the imagery. A lot of chapters we've done just have we had chapters with bizarre imagery or like it's just not beautiful. So yeah, I think this is very effective. Yeah, Tamar.
Okay, so I would like to elaborate my question in the context of this, which is like why is this topic getting the beautiful imagery?
That question I can't answer unless I learn all of
my question might, maybe I have this unstated premise, is that this is not, the enjoyment of Olam Haba is not like a widely accessible idea.
Maybe that's the answer then, right? Meaning maybe because it's not accessible and we can't imagine it, then you need to like pave the way, Laman Shemo. You need to like create positive emotional associations to the path that leads to Olam Haba, because it's not emotionally appealing if you really understand it. That's a possibility at least. Yeah, I don't know for sure. Okay, Nafshi Yeshovev. He restores my soul. So he does not say restores. He says, Yaniach, he will give rest to my soul. Kamo haroeh tov, just like a good shepherd. Shlo yiyagea hatzon, lo yadachafan, how do you say it? El yinahlin la'at. So he doesn't exhaust the sheep or drive them too hard, but he leads them slowly. Okay, so he'll so this is not like what we read last time somewhere in Altar. I think that he like does CPR, right? Or like like causes me to have breath again. This means he gives them rest. Vishoviv mi'inyan bishuva v'nachas. It means like rest. Okay, now here's where he changes the translation. Okay, yanchini b'magle tzedek. This is gonna be a skillful thing. Kmo haroeh hatov shelo yanaheg sono Baharim velo yavirim mehar el har, just like a good shepherd who does not guide his sheep over hills or take them from one hill to the other, velo yatridin lelechas mehar el giva, and he doesn't make them go like change elevations really fast. Ela b'mishor, but he leads them on an even plane. Kenu yancheni b'magle tzedek. So too he guides me on magle tzedek. And all of this, Lama and Shemo, all of this is for the sake of his name. Lo shani roy lekach, not that I'm deserving of it. Okay, now ignore the ChatGPT because ChatGPT does not know how to translate properly with Mefarshim always. How is he translating Yanchini b'magle tzedek? It's a creative translation of magle tzedek. Yeah, Tamar?
I guess the paths are like, I don't know if you can do this like in English, like right, like but it means even.
Even, exactly. It means even paths, right? Where do we see this? It's not the most common translation of tzedek, but where do we see tzedek meaning like even, level?
Oh, like by weights?
Yes, by weights and measures, right?
Tzedek,
Yeah,
yeah.
if hin, no. Right.
Tzedek, yeah.
Yeah, so so he changes this, or not changes it, he translates it as on level paths. Okay, so that helps us how?
You don't have to understand that.
Imagery consistent.
Yeah, keeps the imagery consistent. Now we have all sheep stuff for the first four. Okay, now for the sake of his name, still kind of stands out. We have to figure out what that is. Okay, especially not. He also says not that I'm deserving of this. Okay, that's a little weird to talk about for sheep. Okay, so hold that. Where are we here? Okay.
Radak doesn't comment on that.
He just says all of this is for his namesake, not because I'm deserving of it, which does not sound like a sheep. Okay. Okay, so now let's go
Why
on.
doesn't that sound like a sheep? Or the sheep don't deserve to be shepherded?
Okay, you could say that. You could say that. Yeah. I just think that if we read this Radak fast and you thought it was talking about righteousness and you'd be like, oh, I don't deserve it. Like for his namesake, we always say like act Hashem for your namesake, not because of our don't judge us based on our, like it sounds more like reward and punishment type stuff. I'm not saying it can apply to sheep, but it's just not intuitively applying to sheep. Yeah.
Yeah, you still think of sheep as being in the category of things which do or
Exactly. They are sheep, right? They sheep. Yeah. Okay. Sheep gonna sheep. Okay. Gam ki elech begetz amavis. Though I walk in the valley of shadow of death, gam ki im yikra li she'ehyeh b'makom sakana. Even if it happens to me, it chances upon me that I'm in a place of danger. Shu doma legetz amavis, which is similar to a valley of shadow of death. Oh, by the way, remember last time Alter introduced us to the term an orthographic pun? That really it's salmut. Is the word, yeah. So if you look at one of the Mefarshim on, or maybe I saw this in the Koran Tanakh land of Israel, Chatzar Maves is also Chatzar Mut. Like we vocalize the Chatzar Maves, but it's a similar thing. Yeah, I think. Okay, so it's Ge Vitzal Maves Hu HaKever. That is the grave. Okay, so I'll summarize a second. Shu Makom HaChoshek, which is a dark place. Kamosh Amar, as it says. B'terem elech v'lo ashuv el eretz choshek v'tzal maves. So Eov, in one of his death rants, says, before I go and return to the place of darkness, to Tzalmave and Tzalmaves, lefikach dima hatzara lekever. Okay, so here's how it's working. Okay, Valley of the Shadow of Death is a reference to the grave. The grave is an analogy for a time of crisis or danger. Okay, so really he's saying, even when I'm walking through danger, but he's using an allusion to the grave, which is being called Chatzar Maves, or Tzal Maves, yeah, okay, yeah. Okay, so Ulefi Shahaya David Amim Rabos Pesakana, since David was many times in danger, Amar, he says, Lo ira ra, I do not fear harm. Ki mirov bitrono bakel, because due to his great trust in God, Lo haya yaresh yevuehu ra, he was not afraid that evil would come to him. Okay, so that right now sounds like a big film theme that we see a lot, that David is not afraid of evil because he trusts in God. Okay, but there's going to be a difference. Ki ata imadi, for you are with me. Ki batachti, for I am certain, she'ata imadi, that you are with me, kamo im kol dorshecha, as you are with all who seek you. Okay? Ume'achar shem shel hakel l'roeh, since he compares God to a shepherd, Amar, he says, shiftecha umishantecha, your staff and your leaning stick. Ki haroeh yenahel hatzon b'mate asher biado v'yishan alav kishiamot. So this is his interpretation of the two functions. The shepherd will guide the sheep with the staff that's in his hand, and then he'll like lean on it when he's standing, I guess when he's like watching the sheep. Of Amar Hema Yenachmuni, he says, they will comfort me. Afa Pishu Echad, even though this is really one staff, so it's not like shepherds hold two staffs. It says Hema, Fisha Zafram B'Shnayim, because it mentions two. Okay, fine. LeDavid, Hesed HaKel V'Tzidko, Hayu Lo Shevet Umish Enes. God's kindness and righteousness are for him a staff and a support. V'yenachamuhu mikol tzara, and they will comfort him from all trouble. Okay, he's laying some serious breadcrumbs here. Okay, I'm purposely not highlighting anything because I don't want to like prejudice you. Hashevet belechto, so the staff when he's walking, v'hamish enes ba'omdo, and the leaning stick when he is standing, stationary. Okay.
I thought God was the shepherd.
Yeah, God is the shepherd. So oh yeah, that's a good point. When God is walking, when God is standing. Maybe when David is walking and when David is standing, and therefore, meaning if the sheep is walking, then the shepherd is guiding him with a stick, and if he's stationary, it's I don't know. That's weird. Yeah, he pulled a fast one there.
Yeah.
Yeah, not sure. Okay, but we have a mission to not get bogged down in the details right now. Okay, big picture. Again, this is the challenge of Tehilim, even in a small perek like this, of getting bogged down in the details. Okay, which we can do after, but we got to get the main idea. Okay, now we switch. Ata heshiv hamashal melitza. So he's agreeing with our pivot. Now it goes from the mashal to the melitza, which is how some Rishonim refer to mashal and nimshal, the metaphor and then the thing it's standing for. Okay. Amar, Tarach Lafanai Shulchan Neged Tzorai. I forgot who said, are you lording it over them? Watch this. Shiru bichvodi. They'll see my glory. V'yirakiv atzmam lekinasam. Their bones will rot in envy. Okay, so he is lording it over them. Strange, okay? But whoever said that was right. Dishanta v'Hashemin Roshi. So he says Hashemin hu halechus. So Shemin is moisture. V'im yihi harosh dashen yihi kain kol haguf. Okay, if you got a, I don't know if it's sweat. If your head is moist and your whole body is no, I don't know. I don't, because oil on the whole body, whatever. Rutzono lomar ki lo yechsar davar. It means he won't lack anything. Ki kol mashu tzarech yasmin lokal. Anything he needs, God will provide for him. Kosi revaya, my cup overfloweth. Shalim. Okay, fine. This is another grammatical point. Ki below. Okay, but there's more grammar. She. Okay, klomar. She. No, that's explaining. Yeah, she sevea umala olam. It's always full. Vihu olam seveim hashosim ba, and those who drink from it are always satiated. B'choze l'rav hatov shenasan lahakel ulachol beiso. This is due to all the abundant good that God gave him and all of his household. Okay, so that's just all a mashal for abundant goodness that God is giving him, and so much that it makes his enemies jealous. Okay, last pasuk. Okay, then we can think. Ach tova chesed yirfuni ani modelacha b'tova shenasata li ad hayom. I give thanks to you for the goodness that you gave me today. Ach zeh she'ani mevakesh mimcha shirdifuni tuvacha v'chastecha kol yemei chayai. But this is what I ask of you, that your goodness and your kindness chase me all the days of my life, lo yatriduni milchamos v'iske ha'olam, and that I do not get bogged down or distracted in wars and other worldly involvements. V'shavti, so that so he's learning the vav as so that I may rest in the house of Hashem. So he's not saying sit, but rest. He's boded sham, and I can seclude myself there. Now, seclusion there, this does not mean to say like a monastic seclusion. Misboded in the lashon of at least the like Maimonidean Rishonim means like to devote all your energy to something. So devote all your energy to devote all my energy to thinking about your service and your oneness. V'shavti is me'inyan shuva v'nachas. So shavti means to rest. Oye pirushu v'shavti kamashmao, or it means what it sounds like. Shiasmi halichaso shama pam pam means I will return there again and again. Upirush b'veis Hashem makom ha'aron. That's the only part of this Radak I don't understand. The house of Hashem is the place of the Aron. I think he's saying that the thing that's compelling to say that what's compelling to say that Beis Hashem is the place of the Aron? I mean, obviously that's where the Aron is, but why place of the Aron?
He's not talking about Olam Haba.
So he's not talking about Olam Haba, right?
He's talking about learning, and the Aron has to do with learning about the Aron.
That could be. It could be that the Aron stands for Torah. I was just thinking simply the house of Hashem you would associate. Yeah, Tamar?
I was gonna say this is pre-Beis Mikdash.
Yeah, this is pre-Beis Mikdash, right? You associate to the Beis Mikdash, but Beis Mikdash wasn't built yet. So wherever the Aron was is the house of Hashem.
Learn best.
That could be as well, or I guess if you hold that David is a Navi or got Nevuah, then maybe it's a good place for Ruach HaKodesh. Okay, fine. Uperush le'orach yamim, what does it mean for length of days? Kamosha Amar kol yimei chayai, it means all the days of my life. So this is a synonym. But he says, I want the maximum lifespan. Okay, so that's the Radak. Okay, so the main questions we're going to try to get here are the first two Adler questions, which are what is the main idea according to Radak, and then what is the purpose of saying this for us? Now, I know I only went through it once, but let me just see if I can do the highlights here, okay? So you've got describing the qualities of the Good Shepherd, okay? Then saying that he provides them with all of his all the sheep's needs, make sure they don't get swept away. He doesn't exhaust them. He leads them on level paths. He even when he takes them through danger.
It's not for his sake.
Yeah, right. It's not for his sake. It's not for the sheep's sake. Even when he's in a place of danger, then he doesn't fear that harm will befall him. And he guides me with his kindness and righteousness. Hold on a second. I actually do want to highlight a couple things here. I just said I wasn't going to prejudice you, but watch me. He mirov bitchono bakel lohaya yaresh yavohu. So that's definitely a key line. Because of his trust in God, then he doesn't fear evil will come to him. And then he says, so God's kindness and I meant to highlight this whole thing because you were with me. I trust in you that you're with me as you are with all those who seek you. Okay. And okay, there we go here. And then God's kindness and righteousness served David as a rod and staff, comforting him in all troubles. Okay, we still know what he means by that last part. And then you prepare a table in front of my tormentors, making them jealous, and he will lack nothing. Everything's provided for by God, which is clear from the first pasuk. Okay, and then I ask from you that your goodness, kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I don't get distracted by wars and worldly involvements, so that I can sit in the house of Hashem and contemplate your service and your oneness. And yeah, I think those are the key things here. Okay. And also, if anyone has any problems with Radak, then this will also be a good time to bring it up. Yeah, Isaiah?
Well, this is a question / observation.
Yeah.
Observation is that he took my pivot and he's only
Yes.
the last
also
one
is
like a
request. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But also it's weird because like the first Pokemon are saying he has this great trust in Hashem and like he doesn't fear anything because he believes like Hashem is good. Like I don't know if he believes in Hashem. I'm not sure exactly why he doesn't fear anything. But then in this last passage he says, and I want to dwell in your house and like be with you all the time, but I don't know what that has to do with trusting in Hashem.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay, good question. Here's another question, and we've asked this a lot. Actually, no, I'm going to hold off on this until I'm going to give you a little bit of time to think here. And remember, we still have some of our main questions as well, which is why frame this as a sheep mashal, right? Like, what's the advantage of that? It's the whole like theme. Yeah, Ella?
Also, another question is that like, I mean, obviously this is a mashal, so it's not literal, but all these like nice, comforting comforts or whatever, like it doesn't seem like, at least I don't think that Hashem necessarily gives all these to tzaddikim or people who follow his name. So what does it mean?
Okay, so I actually want to make that into a separate question here, which is who is, I guess what kind of person is this talking about, right? It doesn't seem like Hashem provides the sheep treatment for all people and not even all tzaddikim. Okay, yeah.
Well, it really depends on like those in Shalom, like are those the basic, which aren't really so basic, the goods that God provides to all people in the world, or is it like specific, like keeping them away from like certain harms that maybe a lot of people come in contact with, but like everyone gets tons of good from Hashem.
Okay, I think that's a big part of this. Yeah.
The question, this is maybe a little bit too specific, but with the Sora, what are they called?
Sorarai.
Sorarai, yeah. Isn't that like a bad meta to make that?
It is, yeah. I just thought, by the way, you know what he does for Zimun? Sorai Nevarech. I gotta say that one for when I'm dining with my enemies. Right. So the question, that's the thing that stands out here is like, what is he doing trying to make his enemies jealous of his glory and honor, right? Sounds strange.
Bad.
Yeah, it's actively bad. Yeah. Okay. In the interest of time, I want to try to give a main idea here. Okay. And I'm going to do something. The whole reason I wanted to do this perek again was because last time we did the Ibn Ezra, and I wanted to see if there's another parish that like is also good. I find myself going back to the Ibn Ezra. Okay. So I'm not going to read the whole Ibn Ezra, but I do think it really helps with this. Let's see. Is this from... What was that? What did I call it? I want to find Ibn Ezra. No, okay, fine. I'm just gonna use it on all Torah here. National Nachos Day. Not getting distracted by Olam Hazeh. All right. Okay, so Ibn Ezra has one line that opens up everything, which is, let me make it big. Let me find him here. Okay, so so first of all, he draws the parallel that I mentioned about how he says the table is Keneged Gates al Maves. So the table in front of your tormentors is like the valley of the shadow of death of the sheep. And then Shulchan is, in front of the tormentors is like the dangerous valley. Shulchan is like the grass. Cup overflowing is like the waters. Okay, so that's like connecting the dots there. Okay, but then he says like this. Okay, V'tamzeh Mizmor, the meaning of this Mizmor, Al Avdei Hashem, it's about the servants of Hashem, Ha'ozim Tavas Ha'olam, who abandon the worldly desires, V'him Smechim B'chalkam, they rejoice in their portion, B'yachshvu, and they think, Ki lechem u'mayim keneged kol tanu hamatamim, that bread and water are equal to all delicacies. Why? Are they delusional? No. Ki machshavtam v'libam, because their thoughts and their minds or hearts al tanuge olam haba, are on the enjoyment of olam haba, of the world to come. Al ken yanichu tanug rega bavur tanug olam. Therefore, they are willing to forego momentary pleasure for eternal pleasure. Al ken amar ach. That's why he says, may only goodness and kindness chase me all the days of my life. Zos kol machshavti. That's all of my thoughts. And I think that's all we need from this. Okay. Oh, he says also at the end. Yeah, he says V'yesh V'hine hatam kila olam eset tov. I will. This means I will always do good. V'chesed and kindness. Kol yamai asher kol yamei eshiv b'veis Hashem l'hakir masav. As long as I sit in the house of Hashem to recognize His actions. V'zosi tefillah be'emes. This is a real tefillah. Ki az yizboded mi b'nei adam. He also mentions this point. Then I will be secluded from other people, meaning to be able to devote myself to thinking about contemplating God's actions. Okay, and we've seen this before in Hashem Ori Vishi. Hashem osa avakesh shivti b'ves Hashem kol yimei chayai lachazos b'noam Hashem ulevaker b'hechalal. Right, one thing I ask of Hashem, this is the one thing I need. Shivti b'ves Hashem, all that I sit in the house of Hashem all the days of my life, and to contemplate the pleasantness of Hashem. Right. What was that? And to he had a interesting parish of that, right? To we interpreted that last time. Yeah, I forgot what it was. Okay, so what's the idea here? Okay, so I think the thing that clued me in is you have a lot of chapters in Tehilim about David talking about how much Hashem is going to protect him. Okay, sometimes it seems like a really lofty level, like what's the one that we say in Tehilim in 118 that I always quote and can't remember, about Ma Yaseh Adam. I always forget how the first part of that pasuk starts. You know what I'm talking about? Ma Yaseh
Hashem li lo ira.
Oh yeah, lo, that's one thing. Lo, yeah. Hashem li lo ira ma yaseh Adam. Hashem is with me, I will not fear. What can anyone do to me? Right? That sounds like a very, very high level. Okay. Or here's the biggest one, I think, is in Tehilim 91, Yoshev B'Seser, which is about all these harms that are like missiles falling on your left and right, and enemies okay. And here it does say in 91, it says the reason why is he being protected. So here David says, I think there's a Radak, if this Radak has it. Why? I highlighted it. Kivi chashak va'afal tehu. Because he has desired me, this is Hashem talking, the tzaddik has desired Hashem, va'afal tehu, and I will rescue him. Asa gevehu, I will raise him high or protect him, ki yadash me, because he has known my name. Okay, and then the Radak says, Hakel Amar Alecha, Ki bi chashak v'avoteu, Zehu sibas hatzala, this is the cause of the salvation, Ki ahavani ahava gedola ad shechashakta bi. He loved me with such a great love that he desired me, meaning like it's even higher than love. I will save him and elevate him because he knows my name. Miflat umiskav. I will be a refuge and a safe haven for him. Nothing will harm him. He avasakel, knowledge of God's name is love of God. This is the highest level of knowledge that a person can get while he's a body. Okay, that when you read a perek like that, then you're like, great job, David. What does that have to do with me? Okay, but did anyone catch when we went through the Radak really fast who this is talking about?
Wow.
What?
Isn't the perek thing or cold or sharpen? Right?
Yeah, that's the line. Okay, and that's the line that Ken was missing in his Radak, I think. Okay, he says, Batachti, so because of David's great trust in God, then he's not afraid that evil will befall him. Because you were with me. I trusted that you were with me. As you are with everyone who seeks God. Okay, so I'm reading this as the way we have to read this here is that whatever level of protection and care that he's talking about, it is a level of protection and care that is not reserved for tzaddikim or for people who are on the highest level of love of God. It's something that can be accessed by anyone who seeks God. Okay, so what I want to try to say, and this is going to sound like other ideas we learned in Tehilim, and this is kind of why I wanted to workshop it here to try to refine it, is combining Ibn Ezra and Radak, okay, and Isaiah, not Hanavi, a person, a regular person, right? A good person, but yeah, okay. So the vast majority of people are attached to worldly desires and worldly successes and worldly competition and all this other stuff, okay? And they get bogged down in wars, okay? And in iske ha'olam, whether that's work or like college or whatever, you know? So what David HaMelech here is doing is he's basically like saying that there's an alternative, which is that if you seek Hashem, if you make your life about seeking opportunities to sit in the house of Hashem and to contemplate knowledge of God and service of God and chesed and tzedek and all that other good stuff, and that is your value system, and you view everything else that's going on in the physical world as a means of doing that, so then you'll find that you have everything you need, okay? It's like that thing with Yaakov, where he says, I always say, Beged lechol, beged lilbosh, but that's not the, yeah, right. So what's the, beged lilbosh? I'm trying to think because he's making an oath to Hashem.
Yeah.
I think I gave a shiur on this in 2021 or something like that. Yeah, Vidar Yaakov neder more. This is in Berashit 28:20. Yaakov made a vow to God saying, "Im yihi Elokim imadi." Oh, look, if God will be with me. There you go, right? Ushmarani b'derech hazeh asher ani anochi holech, and if he guards me on this path that I walk, manasani lechem lecho beged lilbosh, and gives me bread to eat and a garment to wear, right? So Avram ben Rama makes a point. You see that like Yaakov is just concerned with the only thing he needs to be able to be involved in serving God and in doing his mission, right? So if that's the case, if that's what you prioritize, so then you'll find that you have everything, okay? If you're like Ibn Ezra, sameach b'chalko, and you're content with what is necessary for you to do that, you will find yourself in a state of abundance, okay? And I think maybe that's also partly why he uses the sheep, because the sheep is not an animal that we look at and say, this guy's pigging out. That's a pig, okay, right? We look at the sheep and we say that like just grass and water, and it's just like a, what was it? Yeah, it's just a sheep. Yeah. So you will find that you have everything you need, okay, and you will not be afraid of evil, and this we've said many times, but you won't be afraid of harm, because the criteria by which you're measuring harm is the ability to be involved in avodas Hashem and knowledge of Hashem and chesed and tzedek, you know, and you can do that anywhere, right? And the biggest contemporary example of this, or the most famous contemporary example of this, is Viktor Frankl in not Lonely Man of Faith, in Man's Search for Meaning, okay, right? Is if you can find meaning and seek knowledge of Hashem in Auschwitz, then you could do it like, you know, in 2024, post-election 2020. No, yeah, Isaiah.
Didn't you fear though that like circumstances might come up that will make it harder for you to do
Yes.
that?
Oh, so this is the thing that he is acknowledging, right? So it's interesting. He does not say that God. He doesn't say that he's going to avoid a Gates Almavis, the crises, and he doesn't say in this Nimshal that he's going to avoid wars and worldly involvements. But what he's asking for is that the wars and worldly involvements lo yatriduni, don't preoccupy me to the point where they take me away from this. And he even acknowledges if you hold Vishavti is to rest, so fine. But I actually like Vishavti is I will return again and again to the house of Hashem, meaning that life does, look, David had to go do wars. He had to go fight wars. So he can't be involved in the house of Hashem there. And that's part of his avodas Hashem. But he's looking at that, you know, it reminds me analogously of how, you know, the classic question in halacha of, you know, ordinarily when you're going to do, let's say tefillin, okay? When you're going to put on tefillin, you say a bracha every time you put on tefillin, okay? That's a halacha. Okay, I can't offhand think, eat in the sukkah, right? If you eat in the sukkah and then you go away and you come back and you eat in the sukkah again, new meal, you make another bracha, right? But learning Torah, you only make one bracha in the morning and then you don't make another bracha for the rest of the day, right? What's the famous, I think it's Tosfos who first says it, why don't we make a bracha every time we learn Torah?
always like, it's always on your mind.
Yeah,
Or
is
always.
you really you make a bracha in the beginning and you engage in it, and really your whole waking life is considered to be you're engaged in it, but you're just temporarily like distracted. Temporarily not distracted. I don't want to use that word. You're temporarily like involved in other stuff, but you're coming back to it, right? So that's why I like Vishavti is I'll come back again and again to it. All right. And in fact, I think now maybe we can also appreciate the ambiguity in Yanchin b'magle tzedek l'man shemo, because let's say the Radak is right, and this means you'll guide me on level paths for the sake of his name. Come on, there's other ways to say that without using magle tzedek. Magle tzedek is a very like morality laden term, but I think maybe it is alluding to the fact that if you pursue a life of tzedek for Yedias Hashem, there is also a simplicity in stuff that happens, because everything you're doing, what it's for. That everything you're doing, all your work, all of your wars, is all for the sake of knowledge of Hashem, right? So it is analogous to like the level paths of the sheep. And I think also you can say that this is part of the mashal, which is why does the shepherd lead the sheep? Okay, not for the sheep's sake, okay, but for his own sake. He has a shepherding business, right? He's in it for himself. Right. And the sheep, he's doing it. He's not doing it because he's kind to animals. He's not going and shepherding your sheep. If he was doing it because he was kind to animals, he's doing it because he wants to care for the sheep, but for the sake of his name. Right. So too Hashem is doing good for us. Right. But the ultimate purpose is to spread knowledge of Hashem in the world. Okay. So it's a good like way to convey all of this in one shot. Okay. So I think I've gotten my theory out there. Okay. Which is what I want to do in the remaining time, which we just made it, okay? So here's what let's do, okay? Oh, and the connection to Isaiah is just to make it more explicit here, is I do think Isaiah fits right into this, which is that our existence does revolve around something that transcends Olam Hazeh. The only difference is that I'm not making this about like the pleasures of Olam Hazeh and Olam Haba like Ibn Ezra is, or like I don't know to what extent you're not saying pleasure, but like the thing that people are seeking to enjoy, to be happy or whatever, like it's not like David's enemies are. I'm going with the Radak that this is all about Olam Hazeh, but it has an eye towards Olam Haba and towards like a life of the soul, So let's do this. Let's let this percolate. Okay. Next time, let's come back and try to refine it and answer the questions. And then we might take another approach as well. Okay. But I think I just really like this Radak, and I do, it's likely that the Ibn Ezra is saying a different idea, but it really fits very well and just helps us to understand how you can say that if God, that was the other thing. If God is your shepherd, then you won't lack anything. Meaning, if you have this framework where my whole life is being guided by God to the types of food and something He wants me to have, and be focused on Him, so then you won't lack anything because everything is in abundance. Yeah. I want to say something also. Think about why this is good to say on Shabbos. Okay? For Ashkenazi Minhag and all the Sephardic Minhagim. Yeah. All right, let's stop here for tonight. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Bye.
Thank